GTF story, and then I'm gonna call it.
Just want GTF in the fucking call. So we can do the call.
He is, isn't he?
I've been here, but you've been
Oh.
gapping.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, he tried to say a thing, but you guys kind of cut him off.
Sorry, GTF. I didn't know you were here. If I had known, I would not talk.
I introduced myself when you're enjoying the premise of hearing the colonoscopy story again for, it's gotta be like the third or fourth time for you anyway.
Who are you?
Alright, where to start? Well, basically, it was a couple years ago at this point, and fairly normal occurrence for me was for there to be, well, for lack of an eloquent way of putting it, some fairly bloody bowel movements. And for the longest time, we just didn't really bother worrying about it. Figured, hey, it's probably just a hemorrhoid. They kind of run in the family. It's gotta be what it is. So it was just a somewhat painful nuisance, but, you know, as it was there, oh well. Until one day, it was, I believe, mid-August of, it's gotta be like 2008, I think. 2007 could have been. I ended up developing a really sharp stabbing pain in my right side, in like the right side of my lower abdomen. And that's not right, because at first my first gut instinct was, oh shit, this gotta be like appendicitis or something, and that's when I realized, no, wait, that's the wrong side. What the fuck is this? And so, in conjunction with the, bleeding ass, I started getting a little worried and, very sharp stabbing pain, so I had to pretty much rush my ass over to the hospital. And let me just put it this way, South Florida does not necessarily have the greatest hospitals out there. I was in a decent one, but, it's decent at best. And after basically taking a number of fingers up my butt, because every doctor apparently wanted to poke at that, checking everything. They weren't feeling any tumors or anything wrong with my prostate. Anyway, in fact, they told me my prostate was incredibly strong.
Can it lift
as you would
buildings?
expect.
Can it shoot laser beams?
And they did a bunch of. They made me drink some shit to do some like CAT scans and stuff like that. And the best those things showed up was just some inflammation in my lower abdomen. Great, that was really helpful. So they had to decide. So the doctors only decided, okay, we're going to do a colonoscopy. Well, they decided to confirm that around maybe 9 or 10 at night at this point. So then around, I guess it was no earlier than 10:30 p.m., this was a 3-gallon jug of liquid. I can't really describe it. Liquid I'm using the term very loosely, just putting it that way. And the nurse basically just throws it on the little tray that you get to eat your meal on or whatever. Throws me some styrofoam cups and some packets of powder with little fruits drawn on them. And it basically gave me 2 hours to drink that whole thing.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah. So I had 2 hours to drink 3 gallons of liquid. I was told to try mixing these little flavor packets in to make it go down easier. It did not make it go down any easier, trust me on that, because powder did not actually mix into this liquid at all. It didn't dissolve. It just kind of congealed onto the surface. So it kind of basically just gave it its own little pudding skin or something like that, or gravy skin, and I can't stand those. It just made it go down even worse, because now I'm feeling something solid going down my throat all the while, and it's just like bad, like ink, iodine kind of tasting with a dash of fake fruit. It's like, oh, great. On top of the fact that this 3-gallon jug of liquid was kind of like thick. It wasn't exactly like drinking water here. Now, I understand for those of you who don't quite understand, what this is for is this is basically going to clean out your intestinal tract so that they can actually get clean view of your unique internal geography as they shove Geraldo and a camera crew up there. So, I understood what it was going to do to me, but I did not expect it to take as long to start. So, about an hour and a half in, I've downed about maybe 2 of those 3 gallons, and nothing has come back out. So by that point in time, I was really blown, like, oh my god, why is this taking so long? And then it kind of finally hit me, and I rush into the bathroom of my room. Thank God I didn't have to share a room with somebody, because I was going to be monopolizing that bathroom for the rest of the night. And I'm not even exaggerating, it was the rest of the night. The sun was coming up by the time I was done with this clean out.
It's also
You
a
don't
good. It's also a
Quite
good thing
understand
that
what
you
I
didn't
mean
live in a
clean out,
hamster
chat.
cage.
I mean pretty much just non-stop violent shitting for hours on end.
This was worth. This was worth waiting 24
The
hours
best
for.
comparison is, you ever seen that episode of Family Guy where, back when Family Guy was still kind of funny, where, what's his name, Peter gets 8 crates of Ipecac and then has like a challenge with the family to drink it and see who goes up last, and that it's then just like 2 minutes of them vomiting nonstop. That's basically what my reaction was to, except the other way around. Instead of vomiting, it's just massive projectile shitting.
That's beautiful.
And it's pretty much the exact same reaction. Oh my god, my insides are on fire. Why didn't anybody tell me it was good? And it was just pretty much like that for hours on end, because they decided it was okay to start me at 10:30, 11 and at night. And my family, we're no strangers to hospital stays and the medical world in general, so we're prepared for this kind of thing. I had one of those little plastic containers of baby wipes to make the cleanup easier. And good lord, were those things helpful. However, it didn't dawn on me that was really only a short-term solution at best, because this non-stop anal explosion eventually literally tore myself a new asshole.
Do you have two now?
I realized baby wipes are pretty much just sheets of toilet paper soaked in alcohol. Like, that's like a explanation of those. So imagine applying one of those things to a torn and bleeding rectum, and now it just stings and hurt and burns and bleeds even more and more. And the worst part about it is the shitting isn't done. By the time my ass was torn apart, I was still not done. There was plenty more to go, because the whole purpose of the colite is to essentially clean out your entire large intestine. And so every single time I could feel it about like another burst about to happen. The dam's about to break one more time, and it's just going to hurt that much more now because I was torn and bleeding. And you're in really bad shape when the hospital 1-ply, which is roughly equivalent to sandpaper, is your best option. So the moral of that story anyway is bring in your own 2-ply.
That's the moral.
Because you really don't want to have to fall back on the sandpaper that they have on the roll they did for you.
I've dealt with some of that sandpaper before, and I tell you, I'd rather wipe my ass with a great white shark.
The worst part about as bad as the nonstop shitting for literally hours throughout the night with no sleep, the worst part about that was the fear in the back of my head was saying, if this isn't good enough, they're going to abort the operation and make me do it all over again.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
That's the terror that just sits in the back of your mind while you're on the toilet in pain from the constant shitting. And the most relieving part, though, believe it or not, was after the operation. After they had sent Geraldo in there, as he oohed and awed as his tram worked its way up my unique internal geography. Keep in mind that his camera adventure now is not in Iraq, it's in my colon.
And everybody's happy.
The most relieving part about it was when that was all over and I was constipated for 2 days.
You were constipated for 2 days after...
I was relieved at knowing that I could at least sleep without the fear of another explosion. And so the moral of this story is ultimately, get yourself a colonoscopy, because you know what, you need to get yourself checked, otherwise, you might miss out on cancer. That kind of killed my grandmother. She was always terrified of getting the results. She never had a colonoscopy. And by the time a problem was really noticeable, it was too late to do anything about it. So, but that ends up ending a little bit too much on a somber note. The real action, because I didn't actually have a conclusion here. That was just the fun. That was the fun part. That was the shitting. What was actually the problem here? Because there was nothing wrong with my colon at all. There were no polyps. There was no tumors. There was nothing. So what was it? Turns out the pain from the stabbing pain in the right side was actually I torn my large intestine. And there was a dangling piece of intestine flesh flopping around in my gut, and there was a blood vessel running through it that was getting pinched, and that was what was causing the pain. Amazingly, the surgeon decided not to operate on it because that's weird. Usually, surgeons are kind of hotshots, and they like to cut people open for experience and problems.
Kind of what they do, you know.
Yeah. Apparently, he looked at the results and the symptoms, and he basically said, I think I've seen this before. And he theorized that there was there was this tear and whatnot, and he basically said we don't need to do anything, just leave it alone. It'll eventually die the tissue will die off, it'll get absorbed back into the body, and you'll be fine. And so that's what we did, and that was actually what it was apparently, because it went away after that.
How do you tear it though? Like, how does that happen?
I have no idea how that happened. Actually,
Rough sex.
No idea how that happened. There was a tear on the outer portion of my large intestine, and there was a blood vessel running through it.
He fucked a cat.
I
what
like
a
it.
shitty story.
It's because they have barbed penises.
Shitty story. So many.
I get that joke, Lyrax. I get it. It took me like 20 seconds, but I got it.
What'd you get?
The joke.
Oh, yeah.
What are we getting?
Drugs.
And we're getting candy, Becca.